It was one of the most sensational murders of the century, and it was never solved. Marilyn Sheppard, the wife of a handsome surgeon, killed by more than 15 blows to her head. Dr. Sam Sheppard was convicted of murder in a highly publicized trial. Sentenced to life in prison, he served 10 years until the U.S. Supreme Court overturned his conviction. In a second trial, Sheppard was acquitted, but suspicions about his guilt remained.
My mother was murdered. I want my mother's murder solved.
Now the son of Marilyn and Sam Sheppard is taking the case to court one final time, suing the state of Ohio for $2 million for the wrongful imprisonment of his father. Gilbert needs to convince a jury beyond all reasonable doubt that Sheppard did not kill his wife.
Unless we do it on rebuttal.
He'd like to use a powerful new scientific tool, unavailable at the earlier trials, that could potentially settle the question once and for all. Forensic DNA analysis. Human DNA is made up of billions of chemical building blocks. At certain locations, the arrangement of these building blocks varies in predictable ways from one individual to another. These variations are called alleles, and they are the key to DNA fingerprinting. If enough of them can be observed and compared, these genetic variations can identify an individual as uniquely as a fingerprint. Scientists are now able to compare the DNA found at crime scenes to DNA taken from suspects. As valuable as it may be in prosecuting crime, it's DNA's ability to rule out suspects that holds the most power. Gilbert enlists the aid of Dr. Mohammed Tahir, a forensic DNA specialist in Indianapolis. He sends Tahir a set of artifacts, all stained with blood from the crime. Among them, a wood chip lifted from the stairs of the Sheppard's house, a section of flooring from the porch. Tahir chooses a test called DQA1. The DQA1 test is designed to work with tiny quantities of DNA, but it isn't very discriminating. The test can identify only 8 different alleles in 42 possible combinations. His first step is to increase the quantity of DNA the test will have to work with. To do this, he places a portion of each crime scene sample into a vial. Then he adds a chemical cocktail that stimulates the process of DNA replication. The samples are then placed into a thermal cycler, which speeds the process of replication through precise warming and cooling of the samples. Within hours, any DNA present in the original samples has replicated into millions of copies. He obtains Marilyn's DNA from a few strands of her hair collected after the murder. Finding Dr. Sheppard's DNA proves more difficult. So Sam Reese Sheppard grants permission to have his father's body exhumed for tissue sampling. Dr. Tahir can now complete the testing. The DNA from each of the samples is now poured over the sensitized paper test strips that will reveal the long-awaited results. Each test strip is printed with a set of numbers. The numbers refer to the 8 specific alleles the test can detect. Indicators turn blue when the test has detected a specific allele. In this example, the test has detected the number 2 allele and the 4.1 allele. Once Tahir obtains a test strip for each DNA sample, he will carefully chart the results and present his findings to the defense team. At the first trial, the prosecution argued that the blood trail came from a weapon dripping with Marilyn's blood, carried by the killer as he fled the house. What does the DNA show? The porch stain tests positive for the 4.1 allele only. The wood chip also shows the 4.1, as well as the alleles 1.1, 2, and 3. How does this compare to Marilyn Sheppard's DNA? Her alleles turn out to be 1.1 and 1.3. One or both of Marilyn's alleles are absent from the blood trail samples. Marilyn is therefore excluded as a donor to these stains. So the prosecution's theory was wrong. A murder weapon dripping with Marilyn's blood didn't leave the blood trail. Then whose blood was it? Was it Dr. Sheppard? His alleles turn out to be 1.2 and 1.3. So Dr. Sheppard is also excluded from the blood trail.